check this. Share this article. Sort of applies to women here. It says single women face subtle pressures to marry. Okay, so I was looking at it from the viewpoint from a female's viewpoint, because I always think, well, I'm lonely. I've grown just to be lonely and old and single, so I want to see what it was from a woman's perspective. The plight of the single woman. She has suffered the term spinster and old maid, and she has endured the scrutiny of popular culture with starring roles in books, movies, TV shows, magazines, newspaper articles, lamenting her lonely life. With every generation, she is pegged with a nickname defining her status, from the 19th century spinster of New England and the Bowery girl of New York to the flapper of the 20s, the wartime woman of the 1940s, the wartime working woman of the 1940s, the career woman of the 1950s and 60s, and the slacker spinster of today. She contributes to the fastest growing segment of the American population, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, with 42% of women 18 and older never married, divorced, or widowed. In Ohio, census figures show the makes up 41% of the population, and in Franklin County, 47%. Still, a subtle stigma surrounds the single woman, writes Betty Israel, author of Bachelor Girl: The Secret History of Single Women in the 20th Century. There have been too many epitaphs for the single woman, and almost every one of them is pathetic, Israel concludes. She is not. Through the years, her research found single women have been viewed with suspicion and skepticism as social outcasts, odd women who require constant translation, kind of like in my case, except I'm a man. Popular culture reinforces the stigma, said Sally Kitch, a professor of women's studies at Ohio State University. Kitch has written 2 books about a group of Texas women in the late 1800s who chose celibacy as a strategy for becoming financially and emotionally independent of men. The laws and customs of the country in the 19th century were created to promote economic dependency of women on men, she said. Even though today women have many options for becoming economically self-sufficient, popular culture sends very strong messages that that's not an acceptable way to live. Kitch cites the TV character Ally McBeal. Hold on a second. Kitch cites the TV character Ally McBeal as an example of a career woman who regrets not having a man in her life. There's still a strong sense among women that they need a male partner to fit in society and be complete as a woman, she said. Yet single women are a statistical fact of life, and we need to allow for that in our views for what's appropriate in our culture. Pam Edwards, a 48-year-old divorced woman who works at the Columbus Museum of Art, has not felt stigmatized. After graduating from OSU, she married in 1976 and moved to Minnesota. After divorcing for 5 years later, she returned to her hometown of Columbus. Edwards is comfortable with her single status. After you've done it for so long, it's not a matter of liking it or disliking it, she said. It just feels natural and normal. Until she finds someone with whom to share her life, she draws emotional support from her circle of close friends. She owns a house in German Village, a neighborhood she calls an easy place to be single because there are so many single people here. Bachelor Girl, which delves into issues ranging from housing and wages to sex and fashion, explore how the media shapes societal ideas about single women and how such women view themselves. Israel looks at a wide range of single icons from Clara Barton, founder of the American Red Cross, to Carrie Bradshaw, fictional heroine of the HBO series Sex and the City. She also examines the influence of Florence Nightingale, who founded modern nursing, Louisa May Alcott, who wrote Little Women, and feminist Gloria Steinem, who married for the first time at age 65. The media refrain, she writes, remains the same. No matter what the single woman says, she cannot really be happy. Her life is barren and disappointing. Friends consider her a social exile. Not all single women are miserable, said Israel, who first thought about writing the book while single. She coined the term cult of independence to describe the modern independent woman who cannot imagine sharing her life with somebody. In the mid-80s, Israel enjoyed living with her cat in a cozy New York apartment. She had established a successful Oh, it's kind of interesting. She had established a successful career in journalism as contributor to the New York Times and magazines GQ, Mademoiselle, People, Playboy, Redbook, Rolling Stone, Vogue. Yet, as she approached her 27th birthday, she experienced what she calls the single woman's Passover ceremony. She made the leap from a single in her 20s with many choices to an unmarried woman. Israel remembers cruel comments directed her way. Why aren't you married? What do you plan to do? Clearly, it had emerged unbeknownst to me as a problem, she said wryly. At about the same time, she heard about a Harvard Yale study claiming that single college educated women 35 and older could not expect to marry. I was fascinated by how the whole thing was exploited by the news media, she said of the study, which was later discounted. Combining her interest in women's history and journalism, Israel started researching the book 4 years ago and then interviewing 150 single women of all ages. Her research also draws on novels, diaries, magazines, newspapers, advertisements, and caricatures, as well as the worlds of film, fashion, theater, radio, television, not to mention high school artifacts such as film strips, yearbooks, and home economic primers. I want people to understand that there have always been single women and there always will be single women, Israel said from her New York home, where she lives with her husband and 2 children. Still, she'd like to see a society that someday does not have to put the word single in front of a woman. I had hoped this would be the last book ever written on the subject, she said. Although the term spinster faded during the feminist movement of the late 60s, stereotypes still exist, Israel said. We still think about single women and make certain assumptions about them. Why are they still alone? What is the problem? As part of her research, the author spent many hours browsing the internet for info. The single life, she found, seemed more like a huge overcrowded refuge camp, the refugees desperate for help and escaping. Occasionally, she checks Amazon.com to track a number of books about single women. Her most recent count 884. Most of these books say that being a single woman is a terrible condition, and we're going to help you get out of it, Israel said. Her advice: enjoy whatever lifestyle you live. There's no guarantee that marriage will make you any happier. Just look at the staggering divorce rate, she said. The fact is, we are all going to be single at one point or another. It can be a really wonderful thing to live by yourself. It's a gift. Well, you know what? I've lived by myself all my fucking life, and it sucks. I've never had a BJ, never had no romantic life, no sex life, and it fucking sucks. No kinky fun, no adult fun. Sucks. No fun under the sheets, under the covers. No cuddling for me, no human contact for me, and it sucks. It's worse than having cancer, in my opinion. Loneliness is the worst way to have to go through life, as a man. That's how I feel. Never having a girlfriend, never dating, never being married. God, it sucks. Okay, guys. Not being accepted, feel like you're worthless, and okay, I'm gonna shut up. But I think it would be neat if you saw a man's perspective from that instead of a woman's, article. But I just thought I'd share that. But I guess that's it, guys. I don't know. I'm about to order some food. I don't feel good. I gotta go to bed. Later.